So where are we?
We are
In
chapter
Central.
7, karmic causality and the vows of individual liberation.
Okay. And karmic causality. Any questions? Just like last time, I think we.
Since I wasn't here last week either, I'm not sure, but maybe Steve, did you note down any questions?
Is he here? Yes, he was.
Well, of course I should have, but we just run into so many questions as we go through the thing.
I have a question.
There we go. Karen got one.
Okay, on page 53, we were talking about the hearer, solitary realizer, and bodhisattva families. And so, I mean, we talked that through quite to great.
53.
On the top paragraph.
You're talking about the book? You're talking about the PDF? You're talking about?
I'm talking about the book, Engaging by Stages.
The thinner one?
Huh?
The thinner one rather than the thicker one? There are two translations.
Oh, a little bit thinner.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Well, anyway, we were talking about these, like, the here, the solitary realizer, they aren't quite as, enlightened as the bodhisattva families. But isn't there another kind of hearer where people, when they get empowered, they can just hear the Buddha? Are there two different?
No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about these three commonly referred to in many sutras. Those who achieve the result of the hearers, the result of solitary realizers, and the result of these three paths that lead to bodhi, that lead to awakening, that lead to the awakened state. But the hearer and the solitary realizer is lacking bodhicitta. That's the division between the first two and the third.
Okay.
Actually, to be technical about it, sometimes it is said that in terms of understanding ultimate bodhicitta, the hearers and the solitary realizers are working with the same thing. They're working with the truth of emptiness. So from that perspective, on the level of being awake, there is no difference. However, from the level of caring about others, compassion, they are left far behind by those in the bodhisattva path.
Okay.
We had a very interesting discussion on cyclic existence. This is heading number 5.
Number 5.
Where?
Yes, page 33 of the
page
PDF.
33. Well, we only heard number 5.
Are we changing books?
Yes, PDF.
PDF.
Page 5.
What's the book number?
Now we have to switch to PDF.
This is in the difficulties defining. Where is this in the 33 on the PDF, this one here?
Yeah.
And so it's further than that.
It is.
I think.
So page 35.
Well, 35.
Yes.
Another half.
Can you read it so we all know what we're talking about? What part of it are you talking about, Steve?
Well, it's not so much the individual words, it's the concept of the heading, the disadvantages of cyclic existence, and trying to reconcile that with the ideal of a bodhisattva.
What needs to be reconciled? Can you say more?
Yes, what we discussed is heading number 5, the disadvantages of cyclic existence, as an
Page-
idea that what we're trying to achieve is escape.
That's page 43 in the book.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
33 in the PDF.
So what is it again? Sorry, can you say more? Like
Yes, the bodhisattva ideal, in my limited view, is a welcoming of a cyclic existence for the opportunity
no,
to
it's not.
help.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Okay, I knew there was a problem.
um, the whole point of becoming a bodhisattva is so that you can get everyone out of cyclic existence. In the first place, there's no bodhisattva vow independent of the need to get out of cyclic existence. Cyclic existence, by definition, is defined by confusion. There's absolutely no redeeming quality of cyclic existence. Now, I'm not saying there's no redeeming quality to Little Rock, Arkansas, or Asheville, North Carolina. We're talking about cyclic existence. Cyclic existence is not a place, right? Cyclic existence is a mode of being. And that mode is defined by confusion. Confusion that has no other result than suffering. So we want to get out of. Not only we want to get out of this, we want to help others to get out of this. And hence we take the bodhisattva vow. And that's the vow. The bodhisattva vow is the vow to get out of samsara for the sake of being able to lead others out of samsara.
But I thought it was possible to transcend that during a lifetime. One becomes enlightened.
Well,
and
then
that
you
is
have
the
to see
transition.
the disadvantages of cyclic existence. If you're still enamored with cyclic existence, then there's no determination to get out. There's no determination to even transcend. Of course. That's why I said, cyclic existence is not a place. It's not a location. It's not a physical place. It's not a physical location.
Okay, so we're not to consider cyclic existence to be the same as reincarnation.
Well, rebirth is just this moment to the next moment, to the next moment, to the next moment, to the next moment. It's just the continuity of these moments, yeah? And so if in this moment there's confusion, then in the next moment the confusion persists, then it persists, then it persists. That's cyclic existence. Doesn't matter whether we're talking about this life, next life. It's these moments of confusion that leads to the next moment of confusion that leads to the next moment of confusion.
Oh, that's wonderful. Boy, did we not get there. We worked on this too and did not end up there.
Yeah, we have to, I mean, we have to go back and kind of get clear on these things, because there's a lot of writings out there that leads people in all sorts of direction. And we have read so much, And instead of reading to clarify, I think we read and then it becomes just this big mush.
Oh, yeah.
Right? There's another one. There was very, while we're on this topic, there's another one of these ideas that floats around a lot, which is the idea that what is a bodhisattva? A bodhisattva is one who, I think, is related to your question, actually. So it's not surprising because this floats around a lot. The idea that a bodhisattva is someone who postpones their enlightenment so that they can stick around and help all beings. Right?
That's not the way I understood it.
That because that is related to then, like, there's some sort of benefit to stick around. Yeah, so you don't give up supposedly on cyclic existence in that way. Yeah, but that's not the view that we have here, or at least for this author, this is not how he understands what a bodhisattva is. You do not stick around in cyclic existence in order to help others. Why?
Yeah.
Because you are saying, I'm going to keep some of my confusion so that I can hang out with all these confused beings.
Well, we never thought to decouple cyclic existence from reincarnation. I thought that's what it meant.
But how is it decoupled? It's not decoupled, no? Yeah.
Well, because cyclic existence is referring to a state of mind which
state of
refers to
existence.
moment-to-moment confusion.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the same as referring to being reincarnated. They're not even related.
Rebirth just continues. It doesn't exclude rebirth,
No, it just doesn't have anything to do with rebirth. It doesn't exclude it, it just doesn't address it. It's not included. Well, I'm just trying to understand what you said. I'm not trying to suggest something
Right.
different than what you said.
Yeah, no. So I don't see. So how is it related then to rebirth?
I thought my new understanding is it's not.
And the before understanding?
That's what it meant. Cyclic existence meant rebirth.
Right. But even that, even if based on that understanding, then cyclic existence still has all these disadvantages, right? So especially in this chapter, he goes through, if you are reborn as a hell being, here are all the ways in which, it's not desirable. So then if you're reborn into this realm, then here are all the ways in which it's a pain, so to say. And if you're born into, and so he goes through all 6 realms to show you nowhere in the 6 realms. So it includes, no matter what realm you're born in, it's saying, no matter what realm you're existing in, there's no freedom. And to become Buddha is to become free.
Okay, would you say there is any benefit to reincarnation once one is enlightened?
There's no more rebirth when one is a Buddha. Rebirth is by definition pushed by confusion, fueled by confusion and the three poisons.
Okay, so a bodhisattva has become enlightened, and this all happens within a lifetime, and that person is
Not
not
necessarily within a lifetimes. In fact, it's not. It's 3 incalculable eons.
Well, let's get to the last one. That we've been enlightened. Now, this person is not going to be reborn and come back as a bodhisattva.
Yes. No.
Okay, so see, I got that wrong too.
Yeah. So this
We
person
really need you here.
This person now is no longer exists. What exists is Buddha. Yeah. So then Buddhas have the Dharmakaya. They manifest Sambhogakaya. They manifest Nirmanakayas. But they're not, because by definition, rebirth and cyclic existence are powered by confusion. Fueled by
Very
confusion.
valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. So Buddhas are, free from confusion. It's an entirely different type of, if you want to use the word existence, even that is problematic. Because according to the basic understanding, to exist is to exist in confusion.
Yeah, I have to say that's a very interesting way to put that together.
Yeah.
We just didn't do that.
And so cyclic existence, then, again, what is the function of that chapter? The function of that chapter is to shine a light on, all the little so-called happinesses that you think is available here. Yes, so we get, if we translate the chapter to the level that you and I can appreciate and understand, and not even need to think about, when I don't have this body, where I'm going, but just, when I say just look at it this way, I'm not saying it's only limited to this way, but I'm saying for all intents and purposes, where you and I can, right now, translate what this means. Then within that context, these 6 realms of rebirth are states of being that even within this human body, we have the capacity to experience. From the hell realms to the God realms and everything in between. Now, the point of this chapter is whether it's the highest God realm, which is described as this in the formless God realms, it's said that the mind has become so subtle that it's called neither existence nor non-existence. And so the point about this subtlety of mind, the mind has been so refined that you can neither call it existence nor non-existence, because it's been so refined. And what's the point of having the mind being so refined? So that no suffering can land on it. In contrast, in the hell realms, everything is so real. Everything is so real that even someone like touching you, so to say, brushing against you, right, is experienced as these blades slashing you, right? So all the gory description of the tortures of the hell realm is talking about how the mind becomes so embodied, so to say, that normally having a human body, if someone just brush against, depending on who is brushing against, you experience some pleasure or neutrality or, discomfort. But the hell being's mind is so sensitive. Even wind blowing, is experienced as like, this wind that is like blades slashing through your body. So all of this is our kind of situation. And seeing that all of this is undesirable. So we need to put a stop. We need to put a stop. And then we need to put a stop not only for ourselves, now we need to put a stop for others. But because this is not a God-based system, we cannot literally just take someone out of suffering and put them in happiness. So there are also limits even to what Buddhas can do. But if there is any kind of being that can do it, then Buddhas come closest to being truly helpful and beneficial to others. And that's why we commit to becoming Buddhists. Even if it takes 3 incalculable eons of work.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
I want to go back to how you answered Karen about the difference between a bodhisattva and the solitary, whatever the other guys.
Yes.
Is that the orientation? So a bodhisattva, and this is about rebirth too. The difference is that a bodhisattva's orientation is always focused on everybody,
Yes.
not themselves. So in some ways, that is how the bodhisattva overcomes confusion. Because they, instead of worrying about themselves only or whatever, they focus on, we're all in this together, this sort of bigger view. And
Yes, but this bigger view is informed by an understanding of emptiness. Yeah, so it's not like, oh, you have stopped obsessing over yourself, now you're obsessing over others.
okay, or the state
But
of the
be
world.
careful about that too, because we do that, right?
Good one. Let me just ask the last part of my question is, so therefore, a bodhisattva like the other guys could be doing that work over many lifetimes. That's where Steve's questions about reincarnation comes in.
Yes.
You can do that work over many lifetimes, but the point is always, once you're a bodhisattva, you're doing that work from a focus of emptiness, passion, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Okay. But then when you get to Buddhahood, you don't have reincarnation.
No more rebirth.
And I imagine Buddhas have other ways of working with things that we can't,
Well, it's the Dharmakaya, it's the Sambhogakaya, it's the Nirmanakaya. That's why we talk so much about the kayas.
Right.
The kayas are not, the same as, propelled by karma, become re-embodied.
Yeah.
But rather the kayas naturally arise as a result of having removed all confusion and all karmic kind of patterns.
Thank you. That's really helpful. It is.
I just have to say that, that was my understanding too, because every time I've heard teaching on Bodhisattva and what they are, I've heard it's told that they will not be enlightened until everyone is.
Yeah,
So
no.
And
That's
what you're saying, that's wrong.
no. Then if that's the case, you know, there's what happened to Shakyamuni? So selfish.
Because he came
Oh,
back.
wow, he became a Buddha.
Yeah.
So what about the Bodhisattva vow?
Huh?
What were you talking about, that the Bodhisattva
The vow.
vows to return into
No,
all
I
beings
wasn't-
of light?
Oh, Bodhisattva vow is not about returning.
That's what I thought.
It wasn't, I didn't.
But I always had that
wasn't
idea,
about
that
the
the-
vow. I was
Right
just-
now we are helplessly returning. Oh my gosh. You don't need to take a vow to return. That's a given.
Well, like Tara, she will return as a woman in every lifetime until all beings.
That's
reach
not about returning. No, that's saying, you know, I will take the hard way.
Yeah.
Not about returning. The emphasis is not about the returning. Rebirth is the default.
Right, that makes sense.
Left to our own devices, you don't need to take vows, you know, to recycle again and again and again and again and again and again.
It's gonna happen.
No, that's samsara.
Yeah, this in part is because, you know, you all grew up not in a Buddhist culture, right? You grew up in a culture where it says you get one chance. So then when you hear about rebirth, you think that's good news. Actually, rebirth is bad news. In traditional Buddhist context, you know, we're like, rebirth is a bad deal. You always get a worse deal the next time.
No.
You know, that's our basic understanding, which is what the Buddha taught. But culturally, I'm saying, you know,
Yeah.
so they're like, this rebirth business, you know, every time you come back, you know, it gets worse.
Shoot, anyway.
Yeah.
So when you hear rebirth, right, you're like, ah. So my relatives who convert to Christianity, they're like, ah, now so easy,
Yeah.
you know? They're like, ah, God has taken care of everything, and there's no more repeating, you know? Next life, eternally with God. Oh, everything. They all often said this. My relatives, they say, ah, so simple now, so simple now, so simple now. Yeah. You know. And in all cases, so here's the other side. I can honestly tell you, I think they have become better people. So praise the Lord.
Okay.
You know,
Hallelujah.
what's the point of all this sophistication and complexity when, you know, you can't actualize, you can't practice. So I saw on Facebook this morning, just, you know, doing that samsaric thing called scrolling, right?
Yeah.
That's the default, you know. Scroll, scroll, scroll. That's like a mini rebirth going on and on. Yeah. After like half an hour, you know, you don't know how many lives you have gone through, you know, and it's all suffering, right? But sometimes, you know, some dharma comes through. And I saw this one Zen master said, one disciple comes to him and said, you know, I heard a Christian pastor said, of all these religious people, these Buddhists tell the biggest lies. They tell the most number of lies. Okay. So the Zen master goes, yes, yes, yes. The pastor is absolutely correct. So the disciple is a little like, what? What do you mean? He says, yes. All the 84,000 dharmas that the Buddha taught, they are all lies until you have put them into practice.
Oh.
Yeah, you know. And put them into practice means, you have taken into you and you actually have experienced how it works. So all these theories about the mind, about Buddha nature, all these are all lies, or I call them rumors. But here, this point is even more powerfully kind of made, like until we begin to experience, actualize, and put into practice, meaning this, then they're all lies.
Dr. Light was the group mentioned Bodhisattva as a point towards Buddhahood and like an advanced
It's the
place
path.
before one becomes a Buddha.
Yes, it's a path.
Is that an accurate way to understand that?
Hmm?
Is that an accurate way to understand Bodhisattva?
Yes, it's the path to become Buddha. You have to become a Bodhisattva.
And that has to do mostly with a rejection of self and a total focus to others before you.
No, I wouldn't say that. There are many things to practice, but the what makes you a bodhisattva is taking the vow that says, no matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes, I am going to achieve Buddhahood so that I can most effectively benefit beings. That's the bodhisattva vow. And various other versions, various other ways of saying it is basically saying this. When you take this vow and you mean it, then you have entered the ranks of bodhisattvas. Heart Sutra retreat, we talked about this. And so now you have to go listen to that retreat. More about how to become a bodhisattva. What is involved in bodhisattva practice? What are the two bodhicittas? Lojong in 7 points. That's what bodhisattvas practice. And there are so many ways of talking about what a bodhisattvas have to practice. The 6 perfections, another way of talking about that. The 37 bodhisattva practices is another way of talking about it.
And does the concept of no self fit into that somehow?
Yeah, that's understanding about ultimate bodhicitta, That's related to ultimate bodhicitta. That bodhicitta then has 2 aspects, relative bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. Relative bodhicitta pertains to the love and compassion side of things, and ultimate bodhicitta pertains to the emptiness side of things, in which not self is pointing in the same direction as emptiness.
Yeah, that's good too. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question. I don't know if I should ask it, but you said that we get reincarnated. That
Rebirth.
Rebirth. The rebirth is worse. Reborn.
Yeah, so I avoid saying reincarnation because incarnation, it's loaded with Christian understandings of what is going on. Incarnate, something, some permanent thing is changing clothes, So it matches the Hindu way of understanding what's going on, Then, of course, in Christianity, incarnation is God incarnate, right? Once in the whole history of the universe, it happened once, that was Jesus, right? So he was the incarnation of God. Reincarnation then being used as a way to describe many lifetimes, would apply to Hindu understanding and Jain understanding of what is going on. The Buddhist understanding of this process is really not so easy to understand in some ways, but absolutely easy to understand in other ways. Big footnote, sorry, go back. Okay, Karen.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, what you said about rebirth is that it's going to be worse the next time.
That's how we experience it.
What do you mean?
Left to its own devices, that's how it's going to unfold.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm
So
not telling you to make
there's
it so.
there's a footnote there.
It's a description, it's not a prescription.
Okay. All right. Footnote, disclaimer.
No disclaimer, you just have to listen
Well,
carefully.
a footnote. Asterisk. Oh, by the way,
So the karma that you accumulate, the good karma never is better than the bad karma. You never tip the scales. Because what comes back is not a soul, but there are karmic imprints, right?
Yeah, so every moment is the embodiment of these karmic choices that have been made. And so then it arises accordingly. And so in that way, you cannot even say that it's me, because there's no me that owns this, you know. It's really not easy to understand in that sense, as in but on the other hand, it's not that hard to understand either, because as I said, right, the scientific worldview that we have does not need a soul, right, to account for, right, this particular person that was born, 50 plus years ago, and the hospital definitely had records of that happening, right? But through all of this, from a scientific point of view, right, there's no need to concoct a soul or some kind of metaphysical entity, right? Now, this is where the similarity stops. Whereas the materialist-based, scientific materialist-based, or at least mainstream research, will say, therefore, when the material body is no longer there, then end of everything. This is where the Buddha differs from. Otherwise, up until that point, I think is a very similar understanding. Like, you don't need some kind of metaphysical, spiritual, supernatural self or soul to account for how all of this can work, how memory can work, all of that, right? Where the Buddha differs from mainstream scientific position is the Buddha says, no, it doesn't stop when this body falls apart, because it continues, as in this process continues, because there is the consciousness, and consciousness again is not a thing. Consciousness is also a process. And this process will continue. How it continues in accordance with the causes and effects that we put in place.
Is the consciousness energy?
Oh, you can use whatever word you want to use, right? I mean, it's just words. And the characteristic is what I think the Buddha would be more interested in. Because understanding the characteristic, understanding the mechanics, then makes a difference. Makes the important difference.
I wrote down the last time we met, consciousness is not permanent.
Yes, it's not.
And is it true that basically we can know what you said about it's a rumor until you practice it? So we can know what consciousness is theoretically when we meditate. We can actually observe thoughts coming and going and the movement of the
Yes.
mind and all
Yes.
that happening within a vacuum or within a space of emptiness.
Yes.
That's the idea, right? That's the idea, that we train to
Yeah, we
understand.
train with what we can directly experience.
Yeah, but we do experience both enlightenment or the lack of confusion and the creation of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, right? That process that you
Right
just.
now, we are not habituated to recognizing the lack of confusion.
Right.
Yeah, that stainless aspect of mind.
Right. We don't recognize it, but our teachers are always, I mean, mine is always going, you have to recognize it and then you have to stabilize the recognition. That's the whole kind of
Yeah.
Well-
So the recognizing, not so.
recognize. Easy. Right.
No, I think the recognizing can sometimes be very how to say? Sounds very good,
Yeah. But I'm just saying that we don't have to think of it as this alien thing, like
Yeah,
Like
of
you
course.
like you would with a soul. Like, what's my soul? Where's my soul? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
I left it at home today, but consciousness, is a process.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
theoretically
Yes.
we can become very
And you
familiar
can
with it.
begin by looking at, understanding, whatever you want to call it, right? Understand, how experiences arise. Where does it arise? Then where does it go?
But that's one of the things comforting about Christianity to people is, I'm going to still be here after I die, but I'm going to be in heaven.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that clinging to ourselves
Yeah.
doesn't have to be, in Christianity. So we don't have that. We have.
That's why in real Christianity, Catholicism, you're not allowed to divorce, because later on, when you get to eternity, you'll be stuck with several spouses. And then there'll be chaos in heaven,
Oh, it'll be America.
That makes sense, right?
The several spouse level of hell.
What happens when
The Mormons offered a solution to that, so.
Yeah. What happens when consciousness poops out?
What?
What happens to consciousness when it poops out? If it's not permanent, what happens? How does it stop?
It's not permanent doesn't mean that it stops. It's not permanent, meaning it doesn't, nothing goes from this moment to the next
Oh,
moment.
you mean just ultimately?
No, right now, not just ultimately,
Okay.
And all of this, again, is just speculative talk until you look at that moment and say, does it last for more than a moment?
Okay. Okay.
So you have to attend Goenka 10-day retreat.
I have. I've gone to 4.
You got to go back again, so that you be crystal clear.
I'm not going back again. 4 was plenty. On one time I had to
From
serve.
time to time, it's good to go back to boot camp.
One time I had to serve and get up at 4 in the morning and go cook 3 in the morning and go cook. I was mad about that for 10 days. You know me. I don't want to that. Kidding, but not really. You know me. Anyway, I've done 4 of them. And I really
So-
love it. I really love it. And I love going.
So
to
what
them.
what something like that can do, not guaranteed, is to give you, like rather than theorizing, because of the method, it 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 exposes you to how the mind works.
I understand now.
Yeah.
I know. I understand.
So that's what you have to stabilize, as Cheryl was saying.
Yeah, yeah.
It's also not something that mystical to stabilize, like walking around in wonderment, sometimes that's good, but that's to have that be permanent, you'll be like taken to a nut house, That's the thing. We want the permanent everything, joy permanent,
Yeah. I got it.
happiness permanent, right?
Yeah.
I really think about it, although there is language like that in Buddhist texts for sure, but if we really understand this, we need, then we begin to see that the search for permanence itself is where the confusion is. Like just take an example of how, right? Many of us grew up at a time where we got like gingerbread, maybe. I'm trying to imagine you guys growing up. I grew up with a different holiday, different. So I don't know what gingerbread at Christmas, gingerbread cookie, whatever at Christmas, right? So many of us, and I'm sure whatever it was that you only got once a year, we all have memories of like really looking forward to that. So then somewhere along the way, somebody goes, wait a minute, we don't need to postpone this once a year. We can bake this every week if we wanted to, right? So in the immediate of getting that, we're like, yes, life has become so good now. But we are the ones now saying, it doesn't taste like what it used to be. And what do? We blame the makers. We said, oh, they don't use such good ingredients anymore. They cut corners, la, la, la. Back when things were so good. Yeah, because we got it only once a year.
Anticipation attitude.
So the key to happiness is not permanent happiness, because then, they don't make happiness the same anymore. We're going to get to Buddhahood and say, Buddhahood is not what I thought it was.
Well, if you're thinking, you're not there.
Hmm?
If you are thinking, you are not there.
Yeah. Thoughts get in the way. Lack of thoughts get in the way. So this idea of like, it's and then this idea that I have not changed, is deeply ingrained, but there is no basis to that feeling. It's just a projection. It's not the intellectual permanent self or soul that is the culprit. It's the emotional permanent self or soul that is the culprit. Like that is where suffering lands. That's the landing pad for suffering. I mean, yeah, we work through this, we talk, we meet, to dispel the intellectual permanent self. But the real self that needs to be undermined, it's the emotional assumption of there being I that persists through all time and space. That's what the Dharma is designed to dispel. Not to dispel that which is there, you know, not to make something that is there to become not there, but rather to dispel the confusion of that imagination. So the famous analogy of like, because of lack of light, not enough light, not pitch darkness, interestingly, because of not enough light, but just enough to cause trouble, you think you saw a snake slithering around in this room that you just walk into. And so great fear and panic arise. Somebody who knows the room better, and somebody who knows that, you know, actually you're in Ireland and there are no snakes, will have no fear and patiently, thanks to St. Patrick, no snakes. So you'll turn on the light in the room coolly and go, oh, there's no snake, you know, and then you see, oh, it's a rope. Yes, so the commonsensical self is the rope. The emotionally charged belief of self is the snake. Nobody has green on over there. Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Dark heather green, but it's not the bright Irish green. You don't either, so there.
It's
Where's your?
Where's yours?
Yeah.
I have a green sweater.
So we're all.
By accident.
What happens to us if we forgot to wear green?
You get pinched. You get a
Someone
pinch.
gets the pinch, so I'm at home, so I'm safe. That's why I don't have to wear it. Besides, I'm not celebrating the destruction of paganism. Although, truth be told, I would celebrate if snakes disappear. I'm terrified of snakes. You can tell me all you want to tell me about how, you know, only how many % of snakes actually is dangerous and venomous. Never mind. My imagination of the dangers of snake exceeds the actual danger of snakes. It's because I grew up in a place where there are cobras.
Yes, oh, yeah.
It's bad, yeah.
Those are dangerous.
One time, one of the baby cobras slithered into, because our homes are pretty open, you know, like there's a lot of open, like not like American homes, because it's, you know, rainforest, it's summer all the time. You need, you know. So yeah, so one time, one baby cobra slithered into our living room late at night, and my dad was watching TV, and he was just swatting with the newspaper like mosquitoes, you know, as he was watching TV. And then from the corner of his eye, he sees this thing moving up. And it was a baby cobra about to strike. They say, yeesh.
Where were you born?
Malaysia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Baby rattlers, same thing here.
Yeah. Or copperheads.
Yeah. So anyway, so where are we?
Well, we're all over the place now.
Exactly.
We could go back to 7, karmic causality and the vows of individual liberation.
Uh-huh. And refuge, you know, going for refuge.
Yeah.
The gateway to Dharma practice, the door, so to say. If we have not taken refuge, we are not practicing the Buddha Dharma. So it's very interesting. There are some debates, in the early days of Buddhism in Tibet. People were trying to figure things out, like we are. It took them a long while. It will take us a long while. So I've suggested that we also look in terms of like as a culture, in the far-ranging, whatever we work hard on understanding, and see it as part of what is necessary for the Dharma to become firmly established in this country, so that in that way, it's also your bodhisattva vow, whether you want to believe in many lifetimes or not. At the very least, we can see it in the big picture. And your bodhisattva vow can still be valid if you have a hard time right now, just assuming that the rebirth is a fact. But what is a fact is that there's something beyond me, right? So me as a budding Buddhist in the US, whenever I sincerely work on understanding, can understand, cannot understand, misunderstand, may it all be the fuel that is necessary for this wisdom to continue and to be strong and established in this new context. So anyway, so in early Buddhism in Tibet in the early period, there was a question that emerged, like, what defines, what is like the threshold that you have crossed from being a Dharma practitioner or a non-Dharma practitioner to becoming a Dharma practitioner. So some said that it's when you believe in or accept what's known as the four seals. That means the four marks that authenticate. The Buddha calls it that. In fact, the Buddha himself says these are the four hallmarks of the teachings of Buddhists. Whether it's me or other Buddhas, they all teach according to these four hallmarks, right? These four seals of authenticity, which is all Buddhas, myself and others, teach that all contaminated states entail suffering. All contaminated states entail suffering. So contaminated by what? Contaminated by the confusion of I, of a permanent existing I. So from there, you could also say is the contamination that appears in the form of dualistic grasping. Grasping, right? Grasping onto duality. Actually, I would say duality itself is not the problem. It's grasping at duality, not understanding. Because sometimes if we think duality is the problem, then we think the solution is all one. That's also not a solution. It's to relinquish grasping. When we relinquish grasping of duality, what does that look like? Right? What that looks like is not that there's no longer subject or object. What it looks like is, in the experience of subject and object, you understand that subject doesn't arise independent of object. Object doesn't appear independent of subject. That there is a interdependence that structure the way we understand, we process, we exist. Not grasping is knowing that. And so all contaminated states entail suffering. all compounded things are subject to change. All compounded things are subject to change. So that's the second. So, and then the third, right? All phenomena, all experiences lack self. And what is nirvana? Nirvana is quiescent, meaning all of these are put to rest, quiescent. Or the more common word maybe is peace. But then we think peace, not that kind of peace, yeah. So some say, that's when someone is a Dharma practitioner, when they accept these four things. But the consensus over time in Tibet, the consensus that they arrive at, they say, no, actually, what defines someone who, as a Dharma practitioner, is someone who has taken refuge in the Buddha, taken refuge in the Dharma, and taken refuge in the Sangha. So this is a very interesting conclusion or consensus, which is that despite, the strong emphasis in many aspects of Tibetan Buddhism, the strong emphasis on understanding and philosophy, reasoning and all of that put so much value, right? In such as understanding those four hallmarks, the four seals, right? Despite all of that, they came to a consensus that says, actually, you could say it's an emotional shift that is the gateway to Dharma practice. They say it's not an intellectual shift. That's, I think, very helpful. It's good caution, at least. Now, I'm not saying you have to accept one or the other, but if you can, of course, I think that's good. But if you cannot, I think what take-home lesson you can take from here is that, especially we are such heady types, many of us that come to the Dharma, kind of really heady. And then we think, because intellectually I get this, I grok this, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm pretty good now. Maybe you don't say I'm Buddhist. Some of us, I think, are shy to say that, But it doesn't matter whether it's I'm Buddhist or I'm good now. Here, to say that taking refuge is what makes you a Buddhist, makes you a Dharma practitioner, and so in other words, taking refuge is what makes it you're good now, is saying that it's actually an emotional threshold that you have to cross. And that's very telling. That's very telling. The Shraddha, the faith that arises in relation to the figure of the Buddha, not in a theistic way, but rather that this is beautiful and I too can be this beautiful. And in order to be this beautiful way of existing, of being, I then rely on the Dharma. And in order for successfully relying on Dharma, I rely on the noble Sangha. And so on this day, I put myself under the care of the three jewels. When that has arisen in us, it says, the gist of this chapter 6, going for refuge, is is right this point. Then on the basis of that, there are trainings related to refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And then there is also next we have to, in the way this is set out, we have to look at karmic causality. And in understanding karmic causality, then we turn to our personal conduct. Because fundamentally, karmic causality is about, choices we make. So there, then in order to cultivate disciplined conduct, why do we work on this disciplined conduct? Because we understand the principle of karmic causality. Yeah.
Dr. Lai, are you
Mhm.
willing to go back to the 4 hallmarks and hit that 4th one again? Because I missed it.
Nirvana is the state of where all the afflictive emotions are now gone, quiet, silence, died down. No more fuel to burn, quiescent. Yes, we want to think more about it, don't. They're just lies.
When you say that going for refuge is an emotional shift,
Uh-huh.
it made me think that when my understanding of it, which is still not perfect, when my understanding of it deepened, at first my understanding was very abstract, like going for refuge was just an abstract concept.
Mhm.
But then when I thought about what I had been taking refuge in before,
Yes.
that's when it deepened for me, because I thought, oh, okay, this is how I've been taking refuge up till now, and I have to change that.
Right. Yeah. Emotionally, we take refuge. How we take refuge, what we take refuge, usually they are all kind of off the point, What and how. Sometimes it's the what that is off, sometimes it's the how that is off. But when we understand refuge, so to formally take refuge, it's not even to say, it doesn't mark the transition from imperfect to perfect. It only marks the transition of, now I'm going to work on this. Work on what am I taking refuge in, and how am I taking refuge? So that's a good way of putting it, That's at the gist of the refuge training. So what? What? It should be the 3 jewels. Not even Buddhist concepts. but the three jewels. And then how? How do I take refuge in the three jewels? When, the how is also related to when, only remembering the three jewels under certain experiences turning up, and completely retiring the three jewels under other circumstance. Yes.
I look at my narrative through the days,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I just think, well, I know one of the best things that I can do is just do, a short mantra since I work. And I can't quite do, and so I don't know. I mean, my head just, it's my problem. It is my problem. I want a book on, okay, if you're a Buddhist, here's your narrative during the day. What do you do? Because I get way off track. And but it's not, I always in the best to criticize myself.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's not really that bad, but I'm at the point now though, that I'm so aware of stuff where I didn't used to be.
Right.
And so, I'm like,
So first step is to, before, right, we work on removing the causes of suffering. So this is my own formulation. Don't just take it, because it's not necessarily how traditional Dharma text would put it. But before we work on like recognizing the faults, recognizing the patterns of behavior, looking at the narrative, right? Something more fundamental than that is a certain level, a certain degree of being comfortable in our own skin.
yeah,
If we
what's
can
that?
begin with that, learning to be comfortable in our own skin, letting go of how we grew up, people telling us we are good, we're bad, we did things right, we did things wrong, In some ways, letting go of that involves forgiving the people who, told us too much of that. And also knowing that that's not who we are, that's just what we experienced. And experiences are fleeting, experiences are temporary. And then, being comfortable in our own skin. So a certain level of acceptance, so to say, ironically, need to be there before we can more effectively remove what need not be there.
Yeah, see, I see others through my, they're not necessarily rose-colored glasses. And I know that, everybody sees everybody right, through my projection.
Yeah, so then in Vajrayana, there is the training in deity yoga, I mean, sometimes we get too carried away in the technical aspects of deity yoga, and forget like the bigger point of deity yoga. Anyway, very good. So I have to go now. Oh, look, I do have something green.
But you're not wearing it.
Very good.
Okay. So yes, let's see. Probably next Sunday we will meet. I think.
All right.
But we see.
Sounds wonderful. Let's hope for it. Okay.
Okay, we'll have more questions. Get ready, Steve.
Okay, we will.
Thank you so much.
This session was really good.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to dedicate or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, oh shoot. Oh, it is on the desktop.
Where was Mick and Jim?
Nick is on a trip with our daughter Katie. They went to Seattle.
Cool.
Yeah, she had a business trip and she took her dad.
Oh, that's great. How
Yeah.
old are your grandkids?
What?
How old are your grandkids? I mean, I remember Honey, I remember when they were just little, and I was thinking the other day, I wonder how old they are.
You wouldn't know him now.
No.
Honey is now a boy named Raph.
Raph?
And he's Raphael, R-A-P-H.
Raph. Okay.
15, and he goes to high school.
Yeah.
Maggie is an I don't know what, now called Danny, who uses the pronouns they.
Uh-huh.
Aaron,
Non-binary.
that's what we call that.
So they're huge and they're complicated and they're wonderful, still wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for asking, Karen.
I was just thinking about him because I mean, I don't know anybody who's named Honey, and that is just so precious. I
No.
always thought about her. I wonder how Honey is. She
Honey
got-
is still pretty, just evolved a little.
Okay, all right.
Still honey, though. Matter what.
All right, I'm gonna share screen, let's see, shoot, how do I do this? No, wait, I clicked the wrong thing, okay, here we go. Okay, so we'll dedicate our teaching and learning and Dharma discussion. Bodhicitta,
The excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher.
I wanted to say one more thing, that Dr. Lai is going to come, and I would love to have the Vajrayogini empowerment. And I don't know if he does that or not. And I mean, I don't know if if everybody would like that, but I just want to put that in as into the basket of ideas.
Why don't we ask him if he does it or not? But I have a feeling it's not, but maybe.
Okay.
It depends
Yeah,
on
that's
the
right.
school. I know
It
Vajrayogini
depends on the school, yeah.
is not Kagyu, Sakya.
No,
It's a
I mean,
big
she's
inside.
Kagyu too, but I mean, Chugam Trungpa used to give everybody Vajrayogini.
Yeah, Kagyu is big, Vajrayogini.
Yeah, I don't ever.
And so is Nyingma. Yeah, that's right. We are.
No, they do name.
See what it says.
I've never seen directly Vajrayogini in there.
I don't even know when
expert.
he's coming back. We need to get him to tell us when he's coming.
We need to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that conversation soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's coming.
because his calendar, he's going to be gone 2.5 months
I
to
know.
Nepal at the October, November, December.
Where's
Oh,
he
Wow.
going?
Oh,
No,
So
he's
we
going
need-
to Nepal.
I guess.
He usually comes towards the end of the summer, right?
Right.
Like July-ish, August.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, that doesn't mean that it'll be the same this year, but
I
we
mean,
should,
it'll be here before you know it.
yeah.
I can email him and and
Yeah.
send him, I'll send him your request, Karen, and we'll see
Okay.
we'll probably
Okay.
come back with more information schedule
Yeah.
for the year.
And maybe we
Yeah.
can talk to him next week if he's here with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
George.
Well, have a beautiful rest of your day.
Two. See y'all.
Bye. Thank you all.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Did we do it?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we
I
did.
guess I was